and welcome to Reliving My Youth. My name is Noel Fogelman. It's our 9th anniversary. I just want to thank everyone who has listened, even for just one episode. Those who have rated and reviewed the show as well, I really appreciate it. Keep the reviews coming. This week's guest is actor Gregg Henry. He played Grandpa Quill in the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. Those movies were directed by James Gunn. Gregg has also appeared in a couple other James Gunn movies, Slither and Super. If you haven't seen Slither, check it out. It is really entertaining. Directors love working with Gregg. He's appeared in a number of Brian De Palma and Paul Greengrass movies. He's also starred in one of my favorite Mel Gibson movies, Payback. He also appeared in Star Trek Insurrection. On TV, he has roles in Scandal, 24, Star Trek Enterprise, and The Following, just to name a couple. He's also starred as Julius Caesar in the controversial production of the play in Shakespeare in the Park back in 2017. He tells me which right-wing activist disrupted the performance. Besides being a very talented actor, he's a very accomplished musician. We talk about his musical career as well. Really enjoyed my conversation with Gregg, and I hope you do as well. Gregg, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man.
Yeah, so I know everyone knows you from being in some great movies as being an actor. I want to start with your music career because you're a very talented musician. I'm not sure if many people know that. You go under your full name, right? Gregg Lee Henry.
Yeah, I use my full name for songwriting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I absolutely love it. If you're a fan of, say, Dr. John, which I like, or even Randy Newman, I think you would definitely like Gregg's music.
Oh man, those are great compliments. Thank you. There's great influences on me as well. I love both of them. Think they're both the best.
Yeah. So I think the last album you had was a couple years ago, right? 22 came out.
The last one I did was Pretty Crime.
Yeah.
Which was about 2 years ago. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You got anything in the works?
I got a new one. Yeah, I'm in mixing. And mixing.
Oh, nice.
Always just a process that goes on much longer than you think it's gonna. But I've got some new songs, and what I'm doing is I'm also going back and adding a little bit, adding some bass and drums and new piano to tunes that I did that I wrote sort of back late '90s, early aughts. But I just have recorded. I don't know how familiar you are with my stuff, but most of it is just piano and voice.
Yeah.
And so I took about 6 songs from early on there and did those, and then I have like 6 new ones.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, do you just do the vocals? Do you have like a pianist accompany you, or how does
No,
it
I
work?
play the piano.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. So I guess the mixing process, if you want to compare it to movies, is like the editing process, so to speak.
Well, it is. Yeah, it is the editing process. It's and having not edited any of my own movies,
Right, of course.
fortunately.
Yeah.
But I don't get into sort of picking at it, and
Yeah.
when you're editing your own singing voice and your own piano playing, you sort of start picking at it and you go, oh, I've got to do that again, or I got to do that again, or, that'll work and that won't.
Right. And I know I'm not sure how many people are aware that you're a musician, but it's got to be tough just to have your stuff out there. You basically do it all yourself. You do mixing, you got to promote it, put it on, the streaming sites. So you're just doing it for the love. You're not actually trying to make a buck.
Yeah, there's, I've been lucky. I do have my partner, my buddy Bruce Greenwood, who's a brilliant actor and
Yes.
also a wonderful songwriter, guitar player, and he's produced 4 of the 5 records that I've done, and he introduced me to Dwight Yoakam, and he introduced my song "The Back of Your Hand" to Dwight when he was shooting Hollywood Homicide, I think it was.
Oh,
and
okay.
we were mixing that song at that time, and he played it for it, and Dwight was, no, I don't want to listen to it. Okay, play a little bit of it. He played a little bit of it. He said, no, I don't want to listen to it. And then he came back later in the day and said, well, all right, let me listen to that again. So he listened to the whole song, and then he gave Bruce a call a couple days later, said, do you think Gregg would mind if I recorded that? No, I would not mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he had a he had a pretty good hit with that. It was number 40 on the Billboard charts, but number one on country music television. The video was number one for about 5 weeks.
Wow. That's awesome. And hey, you get the royalties for that, so that's good.
Yeah, I make a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did you realize, like, how far back that, music was going to be something you were being interested in, as opposed to acting
Well,
it, or kind of balance the two, so to speak?
well, the piano was sort of a part of my life when I was a little kid. My mother sort of made me take lessons, and then she and I had a big fight, and I quit, and then I started playing again in high school. I met a good friend of mine, Jeff Studholme, who became a mentor to me about the blues, and I sort of came at piano a whole different way then, as opposed to Beethoven, Bach, and that sort of stuff. And music was always a part of my life. I wrote songs through college for the different shows we did at the acting school, and my first 6 months in Hollywood, 3 of them I was playing in a band, and but acting's what I love them both, and I dare say I love them both equally. So
Right. Yeah. I know you've done some Star Trek stuff. We'll talk about that in a second. But have you like heard of like the Star Trek Brat Pack with like Casey Biggs and Vaughn Armstrong and some of the other actors? They have like a little quartet.
no,
Oh, okay.
no,
I thought okay, then maybe they. I mean, it's more of like kind of like I guess old standards, the big band stuff. So not like the blues and like stuff like that. So
yeah,
maybe
oh
it
yeah.
wouldn't like be up your alley. But I just thought maybe since you've done Star Trek, you would have like heard of them or been part of that.
No, I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. So I know, you know, done a ton of James Gunn movies, and we'll talk about some in a second. But he's got a big movie coming out this summer, Superman.
Big
And
movie.
yeah, are you in it by any chance?
I am not in it. No.
Oh,
No.
okay. All right. That's a shame.
It is a
Yeah,
shame.
yeah, he could have been, Jonathan Kent, Clark Kent's, dad or something like that, or
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
we'll do something together again. It's just that's the way it goes.
right, of course. I love Sliver. It is such a fun movie. I think that was the first one you did with him, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think you stole the show in that movie. You brought like definitely the comedic element to that. I hope you finally got a Mr. Pibb. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
How much fun was shooting that movie?
Oh, we had a gas shooting that movie. I mean, every one of those characters is, and when I say characters, I'm talking about the actors. They're all
Right.
fun. Nathan, Elizabeth,
Yeah.
Rooker. I mean,
Yeah.
every one of them's funny, and we laughed ourselves silly. We had a great time.
Yeah. I mean, because he on I think the DVD, and you can watch him on YouTube too, the bloopers. And it looks like you guys definitely had a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how gross was eating that arm? Like what was the taste of that?
It was a little minty, a little bit minty,
Okay.
but it had the texture of an inner tube, sort of,
Yeah.
and you're sort of chewing on that.
Right.
Uh, but of course, the look of it, you're sort of like, what the hell am I doing here? What is
Yeah.
this? Uh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. How many takes did you have to do for that?
Oh God, I don't know, maybe five, four,
Okay. Right.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm assuming you had auditioned for that, but after doing that movie for James, did he just end up calling you and saying, "We need you for this role, for this part"?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the way after that. Yeah, he would just give a call, and I'd come running. We did Super, and we did the Crazy Raccoon thing that I always forget the title of. It's an internet series. Um, I'll think of it in a minute.
Right.
But did that, and
The other
And then
raccoon
I got a
movie.
call to do Guardians, and
Yeah.
he calls me up and says, "You want to come do the movie?" And I said, "Sure, I want to come do the movie." He says, "Yeah, I got this part of Grandpa." I was like, "You've got the part of Grandpa?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, but he's a young Grandpa." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So,
Yeah.
so yeah, we went over to London to shoot that.
Yeah. I mean, being like obviously in Marvel movies, I'm sure you had to sign like a non-disclosure, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. How
oh yeah.
difficult
That
is
was
that?
I almost had an incident with that. I was like unaware of the ways of Twitter. I just sort of started doing that because of Scandal,
Right.
and I was like, well, you let people know what you're doing, and I let people know that I was doing that, and there was a little bit of a kerfuffle there at Marvel that I let people know I was doing the movie, but it all ended up fine.
Right. Yeah. They seem to have that with a lot of their actors. They just, loose lips and then they kind of have to deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. Next thing you know, you got a little hut in the Mojave.
Yeah, totally. Now you mentioned Scandal and obviously with this political, atmosphere we're in there. How fun was playing that character? Kind of like a Trump-esque character.
Oh, it was a riot.
Yeah.
It was great fun. Yeah, I mean, it was. He started out. Uh, I mean, he always exemplified those sort of Trumpian things, right wing
Yeah.
things, Republican things, and being an oil guy, and that's where he got
Right.
his money. I mean, that's who he was. But they sort of morphed him a bit, as he sort of grew to then um, challenge for the presidency and run for the
Right.
presidency, and
Yeah.
and then they sort of molded him a little bit more toward Trump. But they were like coming up things with like, oh, this will be so outlandish, no one will ever do this,
Yeah.
and I'm doing a scene about, oh no, we're getting rid of the EPA, and
Sure enough. Yeah.
yeah, next thing you know.
Yeah.
So, but it was a lot of fun. Great scripts.
Yeah.
Shonda really had a keen ear and a keen eye.
Right. Yeah, you just have to watch, I guess, the news for the inspiration for the character, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. But then you kind of played him, on Shakespeare in the Park, right, with Julius Caesar playing the Trump character.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. Right.
It was we sort of I got a call about that, and I was like, well, I'd love to work in the park, and I'd love to work with Oscar Eustace, and so he wanted to meet. So we met. I was shooting something in Vancouver, and he was, in San Francisco. So I flew down from Vancouver, and we met in San Francisco, um, uh, and he said, okay, I want you to do the part, but he says, but you also have to do the opening scene. You have to do in a bathtub, and you have to get up and you have to be naked. And I said, oh, so I have a dream and a nightmare in this
Right.
scenario. Um, but Oscar is a brilliant director, and he had an amazing concept, um, and it was a hot button show.
Yes. I remember the news about it.
Yeah, yeah, it was a hot button show.
Yeah. I think wasn't there like some kind of woman that caused a ruckus or something like that? Came on the stage or something like that, or screamed. It was something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, there
Yeah,
was. Yeah, yeah, that woman was Laura Loomer.
really, it was.
Yeah,
Oh wow,
that
oh
woman was Laura Loomer. Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Uh,
Unfortunately,
she
you still hear of
she
her.
Yeah. Well, she set it up, that she got a GoFundMe page before she went on it to pay for her bail because she figured she'd get arrested as
Right.
a political protest. Now,
Of course.
that happens in our country, and so
Yeah, it happens.
so, but when the police took her off stage, she's outside just yelling and yelling and yelling forever, and the show couldn't go on even
Right.
after we were trying to go on. She's
Yeah.
screaming. Finally, she gets arrested, and that was the key because that unlocked some $12,000 worth of money, which
Yeah.
that's a lot more than the ticket for political protest.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. No. Wow. That's crazy. That was her. That's not crazy that she did it because she's batshit, but it's kind of funny that that actually was her.
Yeah, yeah. She's, I Oscar decided to take a hold of the season when Trump got elected, and he
Yeah.
knew he wanted to do Caesar, and he knew he wanted to do it. He had an idea of how he wanted to do it,
Right.
and and that I played Trump in it, and then there was these. And he asked me, and I said, "Do you want to go full on this?" And he said, "Yeah, we should go full on at it." I said, so I tried working on imitating, and I'm like, I can't, I'm not going to do that with this language. So if I look
Yeah.
at, and he said, "Yeah, that'll be enough. You look at and sort of have the
Yeah.
attitude, that'll be enough." And so so that's the way we approached it, and it got people in the audience were sent film. They're not supposed to film a thing. They filmed it. They
Right.
sent it to Breitbart. Breitbart contacted Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer contacted Jack Posobiec, who was the guy in the audience who was filming Laura
Okay.
Loomer, who got arrested right after she did, or thrown out of the theater right after she did. So it caused a big stir, but the lessons to be learned are there and are used in every political era. You
Right.
know, there's the Guthrie Theater in Minnesota had a production that toured the country that had Obama as Caesar. It's the political statement of what's being said around them. Caesar is a lesser character
Right.
in the play.
Yeah.
It's important to read what happens after Caesar. That's the point.
Right. Was there any like other blowback besides that, or no?
There were other protests. There was other
Mm.
people that interrupted the show. There were other people that that tried to get up on a stage. There were like several other things that
Mm.
happened during the course of that show.
Yeah. Were you ever nervous?
You know, people. I was not that nervous, but a lot of members of the cast were, and I get it.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
I keep thinking about myself. What was wrong with me? Why wasn't I nervous? But
Yeah.
I was not that nervous.
All right. That's good. And I imagine there was plenty of security there.
There was, and after
Okay.
the first
Yeah.
incident, there was a lot of security.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. So do you prefer doing theater like over like movies and television?
Well, I love doing them both. They're very different things.
Yeah.
It's comparable to music. It's singing live and recording.
Right.
It's recording. You can really sort of perfect it, and
Yeah.
live, it's about the connection you're making with the
Right.
audience.
Yeah.
How you connect with them, and doing theater is it's that special thing when you're working right and it's flowing and it's happening and the audience is with you and you're rolling. Yeah, there's nothing like it.
Right. You don't have to wait the 6 to 9 months to find, the reaction for a project
Yeah,
you're working on.
yeah.
You know right away
Either
whether it's good
applaud
or
or they
bad.
don't.
Exactly. Exactly. I want to ask you about one movie. I don't know if you're a fan of it, but Ballistic, the X for Sever movie that came out that you were in
Yeah.
with Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu. The critics weren't too kind with that movie. They claimed that's one of the worst movies of all time. I remember seeing it in the theater. Now, can you like kind of laugh at the fact that it was viewed as one of the worst movies? I mean, like when you're in a movie like that, not your performance, but overall, it just gets panned. Like, how do you react to that?
You don't. You're just another one. Did you read what the what do they call it? The trade papers. They have a prediction of what the movie is going to do, of what the reviews will be,
Right.
what the box office will be.
Yeah.
You know, I forget what they call that. Some kind of meter or scale or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It had it going through the roof.
Yeah.
So those people didn't know.
Didn't know. Right.
Um, um, and you know, critics did not like us. No,
No.
neither did the audience. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because you look at it, Lucy Liu was big. That when it came out, Antonio Banderas was big.
Lucy
I
was
mean,
great in it.
yeah.
Antonio
I
was
mean,
great in it.
right. It just
You know, we had all live explosives. There's no
yeah.
CG. We blew up half of Vancouver. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
um, yeah, it was
Yeah.
crazy.
Sometimes it doesn't work. You strike out. I guess you move
Yeah,
on to the next movie. But something else you worked with Lucy Liu, which I absolutely love, Payback.
yeah.
You were great in that. It's Val, another like funny character, but a piece of trash character that I guess people are happy that you got taken care of by Mel Gibson. There's a lot of tension on the set, right, with Mel and the director.
No.
No, okay, because it ended up being a director's cut, and like Brian Hedlund, he got
Yeah,
let
but there was
go,
not.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Not
but
nothing on the set.
this this is like sort of made up by people that sort of read about it after
Okay,
the fact.
right.
Um, uh, it was a co-production. It was I think you know it ended up being Warner Brothers and Paramount doing it because it was
Okay,
Mel's company
right.
and uh, and after the first draft there was like notes and they were going to do
Okay,
some reshoots.
right.
You know.
Happens. Yeah.
Now this is after the production. This is like months after the production, right?
Yeah.
Everything's shut down. Everything that I shot and that I was shooting and
Yeah.
everything was fine. And so they planned to do some reshoots, and they told. Well, I don't know exactly, but from what I remember from talking with Brian briefly, is that they told him, yeah, we're going to do these reshoots, and it was involved the dog and the money and
Yeah.
some basic sort of things, you know,
Right.
and um, and then they said when he was like 2 days from going to Chicago to start the reshoot, they said, here's what you're going to
Mhm.
do, and handed him
Right.
a whole rewrite of the
Okay.
script. Now it was his script, the original
Right.
script,
Right.
and he didn't write any of the rewriting. So he said, well, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. And so they got somebody else to do it. But
Okay.
eventually, they gave Brian the right to recreate his own movie,
Right.
and he recreated it with Straight Up, and that's the movie that we shot,
Okay.
Straight Up.
Yeah.
And now it was I don't know how many years later. It was like
Yeah. It was like 7 or 8 or something like that, I think.
yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. 7 or 8 years later.
Yeah. Because you watch and it's completely different. The ending was different. Yeah. The result of some of the characters is different. Just kind of the overall tone is
The whole
is
tone is
is
different. The
different. Yeah.
look is different. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I
Have
like
you?
them both.
Yeah. I mean, they're both good. I mean, your demise is the same. In both in both movies. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing really different. There's a speech that I have that's in Straight Up, and there's a
Yeah.
another short scene. And when I say nothing that's really different, as far as I'm concerned, as far
Right.
as what I did,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Like, how much fun is it playing a character, like that, or like, Mayor Jack and like Slither, kind of just an outrageous type of character.
well, it's you know, it it's fun. It's fun to sort of be a bit shameless. You know, it's fun to sort of be a bit outside the norm.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Now, another movie completely different in the tone, working with Paul Greengrass was United 93.
Mm.
And yeah, just the overall, I think that was the first movie they made for the 9/11. I think they did the Nicolas Cage one. I think it was after, I believe.
I
Um,
think so, but I'm
yeah,
not certain about that.
I think so. What was the overall tone shooting that movie and just knowing, obviously the story about what went down that day?
Well, how did you feel watching the movie?
That that's the
You know
only
how it
movie.
ends.
Yeah, you go in there, you know how it ends. That's the only movie where I bought popcorn and I didn't eat it. It just sat there because you're just going there with like a sick feeling in your stomach.
Yeah.
You want to watch it, you want to see how it's recreated, and all of you did an amazing job. But it's like, I don't want to watch this movie.
Hmm.
But here I'm
Hmm.
in the theaters watching it. It's just one of those things.
Well, it's like really compelling, and
Yeah.
yeah, Paul Greengrass is an amazing
Oh, he's
director.
great. Yeah.
Um, a wonderful guy. I We shot it in London. We shot it at
Hmm.
Pinewood. We shot. Uh, uh, it was a sort of a skeleton kind of script. There were like certain sort of points, but you'd get like 3 pages, and then he'd keep rolling for like 4 minutes,
Yeah.
and it's like 5 minutes, and it's
Yeah.
like, wait, I got like 45 seconds worth here. So there was a lot of improv that was involved with it. Uh, but they had an affiliation with the armed forces, and so they were like some people that worked with us in the control room, that were military, and and we shot one day, and then they flew in two other military people to come and add to the scene, and we then reshot some of that, and so it was pretty intense.
Yeah. Right.
And he's he's just a wonderful guy,
Yeah.
and an amazing director. After the first shot, we sort of after the first time we shot a big master, and it's like the master was the whole control room out in front, and then the inner control room where I'm in charge, that's like behind the glass,
Right.
right? And he has a camera over here going up and down the side, and he has another camera over here going like this back and forth, and he has a camera out in the outer office going back and forth, and action. Everybody goes with
Yeah.
you know, and it says okay, cut, and it seemed like a long time until he said cut, and finally cut, and he comes over and he goes, okay, I got some notes, and it's like all up
Yeah.
and down his arms. He's got the notes written up and down the arms, all over his hands.
Right.
Um, and so he was saying, it's lovely, it's lovely, it's lovely. It's
Yeah.
going to be great, So it was great fun.
Wow. Yeah. Um, there are like three moments, I guess, in the last what over 60 years now, 70 years: JFK assassination, the Challenger explosion, I think 9/11. That's like the three moments that people
Mm.
remember where they were. Every generation has one. Mine was the Challenger. I imagine yours JFK, and now we both had the 9/11. Remember where you were? 9/11?
9/11, yes, I had flown out of Kennedy Airport at like 1:30 in the morning.
Well,
Uh,
okay.
and I got home and was in bed in Los Angeles and awakened by the disaster.
News. Right. Wow.
Um,
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I was in Queens at my mom's house because I was off from work, and then I couldn't go to work because the bridges were closed. They shut
right.
down the bridges. Yeah, because I was working at ESPN at the time, and they weren't doing sports for at least a week. So
No, no, yeah.
so they had a debate for a week when they should do sports again. So that was like 24/7, coverage of that. But that was, yeah. But the movie came out great, and you guys should really be proud of it because I recently watched it. It was on cable a couple months ago, and I'm still just watching it, like, still like enthralled.
Well,
Like I haven't seen it, but
the reason I asked you what you thought of it when you saw
yeah,
it, you know the ending, and it's like
yeah,
you said that I doubly know the ending. I know the ending in real life, and I know the ending of the
yeah,
movie in terms of
right,
how he shot it. Even though he shot like all that stuff on the plane, I wasn't around for any of that.
yeah, right,
Like so. But I was like on the edge of my seat, just
yeah,
like you, silently compelled.
yeah,
You know?
right. It's almost like watching Apollo 13. That was more, dramatized about the event, but it was like sitting there waiting, even though you know what happens, like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And that's similar to, United 93. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Star Trek, you were in Star Trek Insurrection. You played, was it Gullison, one of the Sona, an alien, which, you look beautiful, by the way. How much, how much time in the makeup chair was for
Stretchy
that
face,
character?
the
Yeah,
old stretchy face character.
yeah.
It was about 4.5 hours to begin with.
Okay,
I'd say five, maybe, and it got down to sort of 350
okay.
around that, something like that, over the course of the show,
Yeah,
because everybody gets a little bit better and you remember the mistakes you made and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was those early sort of like 3:30 a.m. calls at the
yeah.
Paramount Makeup
Right. You
building.
ever get, yeah, you ever get claustrophobic? Like the first time they apply any of that makeup or anything like that, or
No, I'd done the mask. I'd done the mask thing. I had to do
right,
two of them for Body Double,
right.
So I'd done like heavy prosthetic before, and
Yeah,
that's the time that you would get it if you get it, and it doesn't affect me that way.
right. And what you scenes you had with both Patrick Stewart and F. Murray Abraham, what were your experiences like with them?
Well, I sort of I spent a bit more time with F. Murray than I did with Patrick,
Yeah.
and so I got to know him a little bit, and he's a wonderful guy. He's a very serious guy, but also
Yeah.
he has a crazy side,
Right.
which he would let out every now and then, and he was um, I was working. I was working at the Matrix Theater then, as well as doing the show, and he said, "Oh, really? Can I come by?" I said, "Well, yeah, come on by." So he came by the theater and met all the actors, and everybody was
Okay.
really pleased to meet him and stuff. So that was nice.
Yeah. Were you a Star Trek fan growing up at all?
So,
No. Okay. Right. So it was just a role for you then. It wasn't anything like, oh my God, I'm doing Star Trek.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, then you played another alien a couple of years later in Star Trek Enterprise. Was that makeup more intensive than Insurrection?
Um, well, it's about the same amount of time. It was
All
about
right.
4 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, about 4 hours. And he was sort of like less human, if you
Yeah.
will. So it was a bit more of mask work with the stuff. But you know,
Yeah.
again, 3:30 calls at the Paramount Makeup.
Right. Yeah. Did you make up that own language yourself, or it was actually written on the
It
page?
was written. No, it was written.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that hard to, read or not?
Just memorize it
Right. Anything. But if you miss like a
like
certain
words.
word,
Like if you
yeah.
had to memorize "Donde estás, Enrique," you could
Yeah.
you
Right.
learn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like since it was like a makeup language, if you missed like one word, were they gonna like cut the scene and say you gotta say it this way?
Who's gonna bust you?
Exactly. Who's gonna really know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I liked about that episode, it felt like a very original series episode. The sets seemed very like 1960-ish. You can tell it was just like done on the cheap. Kind of had the old old series feel, and the whole storyline kind of reminded me of the movie Enemy Mine. Was with
It's based on that.
yeah, Dennis Quaid and Louis Scott Jr., which is a really good movie. Yeah,
Yeah. Which
yeah.
was based on a Japanese movie that I think Shiro Mifune did.
Okay,
I think Enemy Mine was based on a Japanese
based on
movie.
that.
It
Yeah,
was based on Enemy Mine, and
right. Yeah, there
yeah.
you go. Yeah, everything is based on something. Yeah. One of your guest starring roles, another one which I absolutely love, was on 24, and you
Oh
played
yeah, yeah.
mercenary, Jonathan Wallace. And I always laugh about that show. Is if you hang around Kiefer Sutherland long enough on that show, you're gonna end up dead. Because that's what happens to every character on that show. And at least you lasted a couple episodes, but your
Yeah.
death was pretty cool. How
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. It's like you come blasting out of the door with like two automatic
yeah,
weapons blasting away. It was like shooting an old western. Yeah.
right. And then he has to like kind of go into your body to grab like what's it, a thumb drive or a flash drive. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So what do they do for
That
that?
that was the hardest part because I'm a little ticklish.
Yeah, yeah, and they got to sew you back up, right? So yeah. So doing all these like guest starring spots, all these shows, you guest starred on a ton of great shows. How often or not is the cast accommodating to you?
What do you mean?
Like, are they friendly? Do they still give you the time of day when you come on these shows for like a week or two?
Oh, well, being the guest shot of the week is there's a couple of different categories of it, and it's always great to have a job, and it's always great to be working, um, and you're sort of given a little more. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, a little more credence if you have sort of the major guest star part, and the
Yeah,
minor guest star, a little less. But I find, most all actors understand what other actors are
right.
doing, the
Yeah,
position that they're in,
yeah,
and we're all pretty grateful to be doing it. So I've found everybody to be, really accommodating.
right. I mean, because like a show like say Murder She Wrote, which you did like a ton of episodes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, that had to be like, kind of like refreshing that they wanted you back, a bunch of times,
Oh, it
and
was such a
working with
wonderful
Angela
surprise,
Lansbury. Yeah,
Yeah, working with the great Angela Lansbury, and Angela she was a fierce supporter of actors, and sort of supported the way TV series used to work, where when you did a show and then you did another
yeah.
show again, you got a bump, you got a
Okay,
raise, you got
right,
and she was very supportive of actors' salaries and making sure that sort of thing would happen. And she was, one of the greatest actors ever,
yeah,
and a great person. Yeah.
right, yeah. Now, some of the shows you worked on had great theme songs. Now, being like a musician, do you know which one, or can you pick of all the shows you guest star, which one is your favorite theme song?
Oh shoot! I, oh God, I
I'm
don't
putting you on the
know.
spot here, right? I told you it
Oh
wouldn't be
yeah,
any
I'm
hard
I'm
questions, but yeah,
I'm up, man. I'm
yeah,
like totally up. I don't even know.
right,
I got nothing.
right, okay. Like Magnum PI, that's a great one. Like Airwolf, you did an episode of Airwolf, that's a great one. Even Murder She Wrote had a good one, and Love Boat, do an episode of Love Boat.
Yes, yes, Michael Fox and I. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true. Yeah, how was that being on that show?
Well, it was great. I mean, Michael was
Yeah,
great. I mean, he's a
yeah,
he's a great guy,
right,
and we had a good time, and we sort of like kept a smile in our pocket about the show. But he's a great guy, and I worked with him again
Yeah,
on Casualty of War years
that's
later,
right.
and so we had fun. I don't
Right.
remember theme songs of any of the TV
Oh,
shows,
okay. All
not
right.
a single one.
I won't hold it against you. It's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
It's all right. I thought I'd ask anyway. Yeah. Now, you worked with a bunch of James Gunn, you did Paul Greengrass and Brian De Palma. You did a lot of movies with him. One of my favorites was Raising Cain, which was
Oh yeah.
fantastic. John Lithgow was amazing. I think he should have got nominated for an Oscar for that movie. He
Yeah.
was absolutely amazing. What keeps having, Brian bring you back? And what's the best thing about working with Brian?
Well, I don't know. He must like something about the way I do stuff.
Yeah. Right.
It's I consider myself very lucky to have worked with him that number of times, and that he keeps calling me back. I mean, I think he's a master of the cinema, and I think um, because it's interesting. You were talking about Ballistic, and it's sort of gotten terrible reviews, and Brian got terrible reviews
Yeah,
for Raising Cain.
I know.
And that movie has like sort of like changed in terms of the respect that it's gotten, but it
Right.
also is like I haven't seen this. Maybe you've seen it. That a recut sort of linear version.
Oh no.
Yeah, you haven't heard
I'll have
about
to,
this?
no, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's recut in a totally linear way, and I think with Brian's approval as
Okay. That's good.
well. He didn't do that cut, but I think
Right.
he said
Someone,
okay, you
yeah,
can
he
do it.
could. Right.
But yeah, we shot that up in Palo Alto, and it was Brian's script. And he was married to Gail at the time, um, and we had about a week of rehearsal. Brian likes to rehearse,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
I like to do,
Right.
and some actors don't, but I do, and so we rehearsed it out and talked it through, and I was doing all of Lithgow's people that when he's acting with himself. I
Right.
was doing
Okay.
those parts as
Okay.
well for him. Um, so yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you still have to audition these days or no? People just call you.
Oh yeah, sure. I have to audition.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It goes away for periods and then it comes
Yeah.
back.
Okay.
That's what I've experienced in my years.
Yeah. Is it going into the room or is everything now just like a
Well,
Zoom?
no. It's going into the. I was just talking with my wife about this today. That we heard a rumor of somebody going in a room to audition for a
Wow.
show, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, really?" And because I've become a playwright,
Okay.
and a play I wrote called "Can't Run, Can't Dance" is having its world premiere at the New Jersey Repertory Theater in Long
Oh,
Branch,
nice. Okay.
September. Open September 13th. Um, but we went back to New York to cast it. My wife and I. My wife's going to direct it,
Yeah.
and we had people in the room. They're reading my words. It
Right.
was people going out. Reading people together, and
Yeah.
it was kind of like the old days for a while. It was kind of fun. But most of it is these days is putting yourself on tape, and since the strike, there's a brief sort of listing that you can get to do a Zoom reading if you
Okay.
don't want to do the
Right.
tape. And so, still, it's mostly you in your house.
Okay. Now, do you feel like, obviously, that being a playwright and your wife being a director, putting someone on tape, you have really infinite amount of time to, perfect it and get it done. Whereas a room, you got to just react off the person you're with and just
Yeah.
reading it. So you hire somebody based off the tape, they might be terrible.
Yeah. I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. It just
Yeah,
probably
that
lost
can
effective.
absolutely
Yeah.
happen. And you all, and you also don't know how they work. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's
Yeah.
part of what you're saying,
Exactly.
because when you're in a room, Justice says, "Okay, can you try that again?" And this time, uncross your legs and sit up on the edge of the thing, and
Yeah.
put some energy in it, or take away the accent, or do whatever sort of adjustment they want to see,
Right.
and you can work with them and realize it, and then you get an idea of what it's going to be like.
Right. Can you watch your stuff back if you're home, you flipping through the channels, you
Oh
see yourself?
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
watch it back. I watch it back, and I can say when I'm good and when I'm awful. You
Right.
know.
Yeah. What role would you consider yourself really good in, and which one do you think you're awful in?
Um, well, I'd answer the first question, but I'm not going to
Okay,
answer the second question.
I'll try. Okay, so the first question, what do you think you're really good in?
Well, I think I'm really good in Body Double. I think I'm really good in
Okay,
Payback. I
yeah,
think bringing 24 back was a good one. I thought I was really good in that.
yeah,
Scandal, I thought I was good in.
yeah,
Uh, there's a couple others.
yeah. Sliver, you're really good in. Yeah,
Slither.
yeah, and you're awesome in Scarface for your brief line. So I'll say that. Yeah. Well, Greg, I really appreciate your time today. Best of luck with the play in September. Also,
Thank
the
you.
music coming out.
Tell all
Everyone
your
can
fans
hear that as
come to
well.
Long Branch, New Jersey. The New Jersey rep. The play's called Can't Run, Can't Dance.
Awesome. And then the music should be out. When do you think?
Well, oh boy, if everything goes well, I can get it out by July before the play.
Right.
We'll
Fingers
see.
crossed. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
see.
Yeah. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
It's very nice to meet you. Thanks a lot, man.
And a special thanks to Greg for joining me today. Go check out his music. It's on Spotify, Gregg Lee Henry. And if you have a guest suggestion, hit me up on X, formerly Twitter, at thepersonal19, or like the page Relive My Youth on Facebook. And go to iTunes, check out all the past episodes we've had. While you're there, please rate and review the show. I would really appreciate it. If you don't have iTunes, not a problem. Show's on SoundCloud, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, basically wherever you can find a podcast. A new episode will be out shortly. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see you then.